Sir Bernard Jenkins.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and I thank the Honourable Lady for Motherwell for that inspiring close to her speech. Not to disabuse her in any way, but I think you'll find that quite a lot of men do quite a lot of pretending too. We may cover it up better, but she gives the right advice. Everyone is better if they're just themselves, and if we feel empowered to be ourselves. And this should be a debate about where we celebrate the re-empowerment of women. I say re-empower because there is now some evidence which suggests that in prehistoric societies, women were not disempowered or subjected to male patriarchy. But recent progress is being thrown into reverse, not just by terrible wars and the terrible list that the Honourable Lady for Yardley reads out every year, but in particular the rights of women to women-only safe spaces is threatened, to safe spaces like public toilets, women's hospital wards and women's prisons. All violence against women is nearly all committed by men. But there is a new and growing category of violence against women committed by people who call themselves women but are biologically male. We should always respond positively to people with genuine gender dysphoria, and I deliver this speech with kindness in my heart. But the 2003 Sexual Offences Act defines rape as when a person, and I quote from the Act, a person intentionally penetrates the vagina, anus or mouth of another person with his penis without consent. Now, between 2012 and 2018, the Crown Prosecution Service reports over 436 cases of rape recorded as committed by women. The penis is a male organ, so these rapes are committed by men presenting themselves as women. Bastions of feminism, and I hear one on the other side of the House, who highlight this risk, and others like Germaine Greer, Professor Kathleen Stock, Professor Joe Phoenix, journalists like Suzanne Moore, are bullied online and even hounded out of their jobs because they talk about this. But we as legislators, we must be clear and courageous about what a man is and what a woman is. Today's interim report from the Independent Review of Gender Identity Services for Children and Young People by Dr. Hilary Cass notes the rapid increase in the number of adolescent girls presenting with gender distress. It says, and I quote, "At present we have the least information for the largest group of patients, birth-registered females first presenting in early teen years." Mr. Deputy Speaker, it is essential we understand why we are witnessing this historically unprecedented number of young girls who are finding puberty so difficult to navigate. And our own government's proposed conversion therapy bill must therefore be reviewed in the light of this, and we must wait until the full report comes out before we present this bill for second reading. It is a scientific fact that our biological sex is immutable. As Professor Lord Winston said on BBC Question Time, and I quote, "I will say this categorically, that you cannot change your sex. Your sex actually is there in every single cell in your body." The responsibility for clarity, therefore, starts with us as legislators. We have to be clear about what words mean in our legislation, and astonishingly, some of us are reluctant to be clear. A woman is an adult female human. Only this week, the Honourable Lady for Oxford East, who is in her place, was asked to define a woman on the media, and she was unable or unwilling to give a clear answer. Of course, I give way to the Honourable Lady.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I would like to ask the Honourable Member for evidence of the statement he has just made. I would like him to provide a transcript of my comments, any quote he can find from anywhere that would indicate that at any point I have not been clear about what a woman is. It's quite easy for me, given that I am a woman.
Furnish myself with a quote, but I'm very happy to write to the Honourable Lady. But I can promise the Honourable Lady that she did not answer the question when she was asked. And, okay, I give way again.
Thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. I'm afraid the honourable member appears perhaps not to have followed the evidence about what I have stated. Perhaps he may have consulted social media rather than looking at what I stated. I hope he will withdraw the comment he just made. Thank you.
If I have misled the House by misrepresenting the Honourable Lady, I absolutely apologise for doing so.
Will you give way?
I will give way to my honourable friend in a moment, but I will check the facts and I will set the record straight if it is necessary for me to do so. I give way to my honourable friend.
So I've just looked up the quote from the Honourable Lady, and it might well be that she can clarify this because she was trying to explain the Labour Party's official definition, but she was asked what her definition of a woman is, and she said that, with respect, it does depend what the context is, surely. So she wasn't giving a clear personal definition, but perhaps she's able to now.
I will give way to her if she will give a clear definition of...
This has been a really well-natured debate, and it might be useful if we just move on.
Speaker, there have been others representing the opposition front bench who have said things like, oh, I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. And indeed, the Right Honourable Leader of the Opposition said on Mar that the phrase, only women have a cervix, and I quote, he said, is something that shouldn't be said. It is not right, unquote. This is a strange way to stand up for women's rights. The government must reply to this debate with clear definitions of man and woman, as enshrined in the Equality Act 2010. It must commit to preventing biological men, whatever identity they claim, and with whatever sincerity they claim that identity, from gaining access to women-only safe spaces. If not, the government is failing to protect women. I will give way to the Honourable Lady again.
Thank you. I'm grateful to the Deputy Speaker. Is the Right Honourable Member aware that I in fact referred in my remarks to the Equality Act, which makes that provision for single-sex spaces, that I have done so repeatedly? It appears that he was not aware of that. I have no problem with criticism when it's on the basis of what I have done, but I do, with respect, have a problem with criticism on the basis of things I have not done, particularly, if I may say, during this debate. Thank you.
Talking about the Honourable Lady at that particular point, but she's put on record what she feels, and maybe when she sums up the debate, what she said, okay, but maybe when she replies to this debate, she will give us a definition of what she thinks a woman is. The government must also challenge the Scottish Parliament via its proposed gender recognition reform bill, because it intends to endow new controversial rights on all UK citizens which have not been approved by this Parliament, and that was never the intention of the devolution settlement. Anyone from any part of the UK would be able to acquire a gender recognition certificate in Scotland with no medical diagnosis. So they could change the sex on their birth certificate and so gain the rights to women-only safe spaces. This is completely unacceptable.
Will my right honourable friend give way?
I give way to my honourable friend.
Can I thank my right honourable friend for giving way? And I absolutely respect his right to make the speech that he's making. But he refers to safety in women-only spaces. Can he be clear in his remarks that for the past more than 10 years under the Equality Act, organisations like Women Aid and Refuge have been making sure those spaces are absolutely safe by using risk assessments on everybody who uses them, whether they're men or women or indeed trans people who may be trans. And so this issue, whilst important, is already being practically dealt with by organisations.
Well, I'm afraid I think a great many women do not agree with her, and I'm speaking for them. And I think I'm most grateful.
Just following on from that next point, will you agree with me that there has been some confusion in the past about the extent to which single-sex services can be provided under the Equality Act, and the updated guidance from the Equality and Human Rights Commission, which is planned, would be very welcome?
For that intervention, I note what she says. The SNP Minister, Shoni Robinson, said when she was introducing the bill, and I quote, "There is no evidence that predatory men have ever had to pretend to be anything else to carry out predatory behaviour. I'm afraid this comment really misses the point. The point is that it does create new opportunities for predatory men, and I'm afraid my right honourable friend has to accept that there are plenty of instances where biological men have taken advantage of this new freedom granted to them to the detriment and safety of women. Women are taking flight from the political parties. I'm going to draw my remarks to a close, but I will give way.
Yes, just to clarify, because there are some predatory men who always will find loopholes for violence, is that a reason for not protecting the most vulnerable communities in our that we have, and that's the transgender community?
It's not the most vulnerable community.
I don't follow what the honourable lady says. I'm in favour of protecting the trans community in this country. What I'm not in favour of is allowing biological men into women's spaces where they can threaten women as a matter of right. However, risk assess. I don't know how you risk assess somebody going into a public toilet. I don't know how you risk assess somebody going into other women's only safe spaces. The fact is that women are taking flight from the political parties that are supporting this kind of agenda, and at least the Conservative Party can be a safe haven for them if we stand up and speak for women.